Hey everyone, what's going on? It is Zach, and Regulation G has been announced. Now, this will be our next format coming in May 1st. So, this will be for NIC and all that good stuff. And LA regionals, I forget what other regionals it would include as well, but it is a one restricted format. So, some people feel mixed about it, but I only have some concerns, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So, you get access to Mewtwo, Lugia, Ho-Oh, Kyogre, Groudon, Rayquaza, however you want to say it, Dialga, both forms of Dialga, both forms of Palkia, Giratina, Reshiram, Zekrom, Kyurem, and its forms, Solgaleo and Lunala. Those those will be meme teams. That's about it. Necrozma and its forms, Zacian and Zamazenta, both regular and crowned forms. Eternatus, Calyrex, and the Calyrex riders, Koraidon, Miraidon, and Terrapagos, or Terrapagos, however you want to say it. Once again, no mythicals. So, one restricted format. You only get one, so it's going to kind of throw off some mons. For example, like Palkia is going to be good, but Palkia prefers to be in a format where there's two restricteds to create a different form of team balance. But it's weird. I know that some people are like bummed about it because they don't want to do a one restricted format. I think it's fine. I think it's going to be very like match based. Like you can definitely pull matches that are going to be very bad for you. And I have some takes that I'm going to save for the tier list, but my question is, if Reg G is a one restricted format, then how do they continue the regulation format rule set into next year? Depends on, will all 25 be restricted format? And as Moxie Boosted pointed out, that's what 2022 was. And I feel like Sword and Shield's series, our regulation formats, were a little different. I feel like they were testing the water. One, because we lost a lot of live tournaments due to COVID, so we really couldn't test out how effective the formats were. And then like at the very beginning, like the first like couple formats were solely just drip feeding in Gigantamax Pokemon. So like one regulation, like you could use Snorlax and Lapras, and then like the next rule set, like Gmax, Hatterene, and Grimmsnarl were introduced. And I feel like that didn't really add too much. Like there were some Gigantamax Pokemon that didn't move the meta in any way, shape, or form. I'm looking at you, Gmax, Copperajah. Still love you though. But yeah, I feel like it's a little different. They experimented a little more. And then there were some serious regulations that were on the online ladder, but didn't hit official tournaments like the Players' Cup. For example, the top 10 banned format that banned the top 10 Pokemon of the previous format. They just, when they did the Players' Cup during that time period, they just went back to the format that allowed those Pokemon anyway. So I feel like they were testing a lot of waters, and I felt they were safe with doing that because they weren't messing with a lot of live events. And then once the live events came back, it was basically just all one format. I think they just didn't want to they were just trying to keep the fan base happy, and they were trying to, keep as many players involved as possible, so they didn't make it too difficult for people to jump back in. So they just kind of kept the format the same. I think it was more of a numbers thing. But I feel like in Scarlet and Violet, the formats have done a better job of making them feel different, So when we look at the regulations, like A and B were short, but there is a distinct difference between A and B. A was just our National Dex format with no sub-legendaries or legendaries and no Paradox either. B brought in the Paradox Pokemon, so we had the Paradox Pokemon, but no Rune Pokemon. The Rune Pokemon came in at C, and then D included Pokemon from Pokemon Home. That's where we got a lot of our sub-legendaries like Landorus and Urshifu and all that stuff. Reg E came in. Reg E kind of felt the same because of the teal mask. I feel like that was more of the selection of Pokemon in the teal mask, not really like changing the game too much. There were things like Blood Moon, Ursaluna, and Ogerpon, which did impact the meta. But like Reg D and E are probably the only ones that like didn't feel like that big of a change. Reg F introduced the Indigo Disc, so we get Archaludon, our Archaludon, we get Raging Bolt and Gouging Fire, and Paradox Cobalion. Why can't I Iron Crown? um, and now Reg G will have that one restricted. So once again, like we're getting a handful of Mons, but I feel like there will be enough, especially with like one restricted Mons. You can build a team and have, you know, like a mid restricted and still do okay. Where I feel like having two like mid restricteds on a double restricted is kind of more of an impact because you can't bring in a mon to help balance out your weaknesses. I don't know. Either way, I hope that they still find a way to do VGC 2025 with rule formats, with regulations, just to let the metagame evolve and keep it interesting. And I feel like Pokemon did a really good job with that, where like people who were sick of a certain format, they didn't have to wait too long. Where if you are sick of the double restricted format, like you're basically out of VGC for, you know, the whole year, which I do know some people that hate the double restricted format. And the one restricted format isn't much better when it comes to the restricteds. But I feel like if they change the formats, it would allow team building to be more interesting. And honestly, I kind of have an idea of how I would want to see it, how I think it could be interesting, but also keep the two restricted. So I think we would have like three formats. So this would be H, I, and J. And you could have it this way. That way you still get those two restricted Pokemon, but as the format goes on, the teams can get more serious, can get more powerful. That way we're just not all like solving the meta in the first couple of months and then countering the meta or getting bulkier. Like let it change and let it stay interesting. So like Reg A plus two restricteds could be like national decks with two restricted mons. It depends on. I can't see this being the case because how do you justify like this is my only issue with it. How do you justify having like Kyogre, but you can't use like Tornadus, for example? So I think if they did this, this could include the DLC mon, so you would still get like your Pelipper and stuff like that. Pelipper is in the base game. You would still get like Politoed and things like that, but no sub legendaries. So like you have your two powerhouses, and then the rest of the four you have to build around them or build around whatever else is popular. I think if they did this, it would be just very, very restricted on those two. But I think I don't know. I like the idea of it. The next format could be Reg B and C. I feel like you can add the Ruin Pokemon and the Paradox Pokemon in at the same time, and that would definitely be enough to shake up like the metagame, especially coming from if they were just doing Reg A plus two restricted mons. So then you would get like your Chen Pao and your Chi Yu and your Fluttermane here. And next you could do Reg D plus two restricted, so you could do full decks with sub legendaries. So this is when you introduce your Urshifu. This is when you introduce your Tornadus and all that stuff. And I think this could make it interesting. I don't think they're going to do this though. I think we're going to see the same thing. It's the end of the generation. It's the end of the life cycle. So I wouldn't be surprised if all next year is literally just two restricteds and we play the metagame for the whole year. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. How do you feel about the 1 restricted format? How do you feel about the 2 restricted format? Either way, if you hate restricted Pokemon, if you hate legendary Pokemon, I have the format for you. It is called Reg A++. Reg A++ is a tournament that we have been running every 2 to 3 weeks where you are using just Pokemon that would be included into Reg A, but this includes the DLC and Pokemon Home. So things like Sneasler and Ursaluna are allowed in, but things like Okidogi and Fluttermane Iron Hands are not. This is kind of where I get my idea of like the Reg A format plus 2 restricteds. It would basically just be this format here with the DLC mons, just no 2 restricteds. So it's really fun. You can use a lot of stuff that is not viable in VGC right now. So it lets you be a little creative with the format and the teams. And you know, we want to get more people involved. So if you're interested into this, you can sign up for it on Limitless. You can ask questions about it in the Discord, link in the description, and the link for this tournament will also be in the description as well. Will be this Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, that's going to be all. If you guys made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. Happy April Fool's Day. Sadly, this isn't a joke. And I know that a lot of people have already talked about Reg G because they announced it last night. So if you made it this far in the video, like, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. But that's going to be all. Until next time, I'm Zach, and we'll see everyone later.